Hi everyone, I'm Renelle and welcome to my channel. In this video I will show you two loose abstract realism and mixed media florals you can try for yourself. It is great fun and easy to do at any level. I will show you the basic supplies I used and some others as you follow along. Because I cannot always tell everything I'm going to use as it's such an intuitive process. That is why I keep my supply trolley close by. I hope you enjoy painting these with me, so let's get started on painting number 1. I have two 8x8 inch canvas boards here, but you can also use any sturdy paper you have on hand. For the collage, I'm using a selection of collage papers and old book pages. I'll also be using acrylic inks. If you don't have acrylic inks, you can simply mix your acrylic paint with quite a bit of water to get a similar effect. I'm using my favorite golden brown spray paint, but I'll be bringing in a few other colors throughout the painting as well. They're not from any particular brand. I also have a few stencils with different patterns. Just use whatever you have available. You could even use stamps to create a similar effect. And of course, I'll need some clear gel medium to attach the collage papers to the canvas boards. But really, this is part of where you can have fun and use your own creativity. Most of these papers will eventually be covered by the painting, but they'll leave behind some lovely texture which makes the finished painting much more interesting. And I added this cute little butterfly just for a bit of extra interest. I'm going to use black spray paint here because I feel the background needs a little more contrast and I just love these vintage style stencil designs. Now I'm using brown acrylic ink to establish the centers of the sunflowers. I'm keeping my reference image nearby and adding the colors roughly where I see them, but I'm not trying to copy it exactly. It looks quite dark and dull at this stage. But that's okay, I'm starting with the midtones and darker colors first because I'll be building the lighter colors on top. I'm also bringing in some forest green acrylic ink. I'm mixing it with the brown to tone the color down a little. I'm trying to keep this loose and not overthink exactly where every color needs to go. I'm doing the same thing with yellow ochre and a lighter yellow ink in the areas where the sunflower petals will eventually be. And then I'm going to let everything dry before moving on. For the actual painting, I'm starting by adding some basic highlights to the sunflower leaves. I'm starting with the leaves because the sunflower petals will eventually be painted over them. So I'm basically working from the back to the front. I'm not being too particular about where I place every leaf because I know I'll be adding more leaves later to help balance the composition. For the sunflower petals, I'm mixing a warm yellow with a little bit of cadmium red to create a darker, warmer yellow. This is going to be my darker midtone for the petals, and I'll be building lighter layers on top, saving the brightest highlights for last. I'm using a medium-sized angle brush here, and I'm also trying to make sure that I don't paint all the leaves and petals in exactly the same shape. I want the painting to feel loose and natural. I'm also adding some brighter, warmer yellow here and there on the sunflower petals just to start bringing them to life. Unfortunately, my USB got corrupted, so I lost some of the footage here. Luckily, I had some B-roll that I can use to show you how I painted the sunflower centers. The part where I carved out the leaves in the background was also unfortunately lost completely. But you'll be able to see the finished painting, how I used the light blue-gray mixture in the background. I also added the final highlights to the sunflower centers right at the end. For the next painting, I'm going to create a vintage style rose painting. This time I'm using collage papers with more greens and pinks in them for the background. I'm also repeating some of the same patterns in different areas of the canvas board to create a cohesive look. Once everything is completely dry, I'm basically going to follow the same process as I did with the sunflower painting. The copy paper underneath everything is an absolute necessity for me. I've ruined my tables, cameras and other things while spraying. Even my nails are usually some combination of whatever colors I've been spraying lately. I'll use the stencils and spray paint to build up an interesting background with lots of texture and layers. Unfortunately, I lost some footage here as well. This is where I used magenta acrylic ink to establish the basic shape of the rose. I then start filling in the shadows, working from the darkest areas of the petals to start carving out the shapes of the rose. I also lost the footage of the next stage where I started with the darker tones of the petals and gradually worked towards the lighter areas. But luckily I can show you the final stage, where I'm adding the highlights to the petals. I'm not following my reference image exactly. Instead, I'm using the general shapes of the leaves as a guide and painting some loose leaves around the roses. For the dark green, I'm mixing deep green with a little red and ultramarine blue. This also tones down the color a bit. I'm adding the leaves wherever I feel they need it to frame the roses and help balance the composition. Once the basic leaves are established, I start mixing in some white and yellow to brighten and lighten the green. Then I add the highlights, gradually going lighter in the areas where I feel the leaves need a little more attention. At this point, I decided to add one extra rose because I felt there was a little too much going on with the leaves and the composition needed something to balance it out. And finally, I'm mixing a light blue-gray to add some of the final highlights. Because blue is opposite of yellow on the color wheel, it creates a nice contrast against those warmer yellow tones, which help the highlights stand out. I also added a little of this blue shade to the areas of the roses as highlights. And here is the final painting. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel and leave a comment below. Thank you so much for watching this far, and I'll see you in my next one.